There's no one really.
There's no one there.
No, it's just, yeah, I mean, Maya, our staff, is here, but no public members yet.
We had, for a second, 2 Ethans. So that was pretty cool.
Back to 1.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Isla Vista Community Services District. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded. And Jonathan, can you call the roll?
Director Brandt?
Here.
Dr. Aguilar?
Here.
Bertrand?
Here.
Freeman?
Here.
Flaherty?
Here.
Topliff?
Here.
Deschler?
Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place, Anascoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. So with that, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Do any directors have items that they'd like to pull? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Director Flaherty?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Made by Flaherty, seconded by Deschler. Is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Director, oops, where's my list? Director Brandt?
Yes.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Freeman?
Yes, sorry, my mute button got in the wrong place.
Topliff?
Yes.
Bertrand?
Yes.
Deschler?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Next, we're going to move to the public comment period. This is the time for any member of the public to speak on any matters that are not on today's agenda. If you'd like to speak, you can hit the raise hand button or put something in the chat. Do any members of the public have comment that they'd like to make? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment period for now. And we're going to move to the first item on our agenda under discussion and action, which is the parking study ad hoc committee update. I see a hand from Director Bertrand before we begin.
Yes, thank you. Since this item may come before my employer, I am going to recuse myself. So Jonathan, if you could place me in the waiting room and I'll come back in when it's time. Thank you.
Good. All right, he's in.
All right, please proceed.
All right, well, this is pretty exciting that we get to share this today. We've got, let me make sure I have the waiting room on in case people join while I'm doing this. Okay, so it's pretty exciting to present this today, and we've been working on this since October. We still have a ways to go before we finalize, but the Parking Ad Hoc Committee felt that it was right time to bring an update to the board on what they've been working on in reviewing the proposals we got. So, we put out a proposal, a request for proposals. We got 4 responses back from different transportation and parking firms. They were very varied. We went on a process to review them and check in with our partners and share what we're doing and ask for advice. We used the criteria that we developed to narrow down to 2, interviewed them, selected one, and that's Dixon Resources Unlimited. And so we're just here to, showcase the proposal that we liked, but also, we talked with Dixon already that, we think that there can be changes in scope to make it fit our needs better and our budget preferences better. So, what we put out in the original RFP was kind of all of the above, and let's see what we can get. And now it's a chance to see what is critical and what's nice to have, and get some direction on that. So this is the Dixon proposal, just a little bit about their firm. The owner, Julie Dixon, was the first parking enforcement officer in Isla Vista many years ago. So that was an exciting connection that they have to us. It's a woman-owned small business that specializes in parking and has operated all over California and in coastal areas specifically. There's an example of some of their work in the attached link, so that's something people can look at on their own time, but their past work is attached in here. And it's just some of the things that they're planning to do for us. Just getting my scrolling down. They're actually looking to do a lot. So we're going to get a existing conditions and needs assessment, and this is, one of the biggest parts of the project is to look at the existing conditions right now with parking, and that ties into their other point, which is I'm going to just skip to task 4, data collection and analysis. This is the biggest source of budget right now, which is collecting data about parking, and they're proposing to use LPR technology, like the scanning the license plates. They were the only firm that did suggest to do that. So this is the biggest area of spending, and if we want to get into the details of how they're going to do the data collection, we have some of that. Where is it? I lost my place in here. So yeah, they've got different 6 intervals that we would be talking about to do the, oh, here it is. Sorry about that. Whether we want to do it, times during the week, which days, how many times per year we want to do the count. So that's where a lot of the budget impacts are, is how frequent we want to collect data and what kind of data. And so then what they would finally do is take into account the other work we're doing, like the STEP grant, and present to us the findings, use the data and the existing conditions and the needs assessment to put together different policy proposals for us and how we can move forward. So the budget for here's a schedule, it'll last until 2023. About this is going to shift maybe into the summer of 2023 is when it'll look to be done. And the budget for this one is $245,000. And like I said, the biggest area of spending is the data collection area. The other, existing conditions, that's pretty much that looks like a regular price for what we've done for the STEP grant. Same for compiling the report. So the biggest area is like, how much data do we want to collect and how much do we want to analyze? That's the biggest source of the spending here. So, and this is the note that they even put in, and we've been talking with them, is how can we optimize data collection and look at what else can be done. So that's the proposal from Dixon. And like I said, $245,000 this fiscal year and next fiscal year, and a tiny bit in the third one after. And we've been talking about having the district split the cost with the county and UCSB, which would, if that was successful, then it would be a $41,000 per year cost for the district instead of $123,000. So yeah, that's where we're at with this. And yeah, we're looking to see if the board is feeling this proposal meets our needs, or if if this budget is within our scope.
Thanks for presenting that, Jonathan. And I'll hand it over to any members of the Parking Ad Hoc Committee that want to add anything at this time.
I'll add something. I was waiting for Marcos today. Jonathan mentioned it, but I think it's worth saying that Julie Dixon she has just a passion for Isla Vista. She really understood the community. She's a UCSB alum. She was a CSO. She was a CSO supervisor, and then she went on to work at the sheriff's office as the first parking person in enforcement officer. So she really, I think she really understood the dynamics in Isla Vista, the kind of the spheres of influence in terms, I don't mean a LAFCO spheres of influence, Jay. I mean, kind of the circles of influence in the community with Isla Vista, with the CSD, with IVRPD, with UCSB, and the sheriff's office in the county, obviously. So I think she really demonstrated a kind of a good understanding of some of what we're looking at. So I thought our firm really, they're small, they're personable, and I think that they are going to be a good fit for us. The budget, I'm not even going to talk about, well, I'll just mention one thing on the budget. I want to be sure that we say that we haven't had any commitments from the county or the university for funding. So I think we need to go into this knowing that we have not gotten any commitments. We have heard from county that they are having to do a parking study in Isla Vista related to, I think it's the accessory dwelling unit.
Right.
Yeah, and because of that, they are going to need a parking study to be done soon. And so it would benefit them to be able to use our parking study for that. It would save them time and money. Well, maybe not that much money if we charge them. But so anyways, so I just wanted to mention that. And to my knowledge, there haven't been conversations with the university about costs. And then one thing I wanted just to also mention is the data collection analysis. The interesting thing about the license plate technology is my understanding is that the university is using that as well. And Julie actually reached out to the university and has already had some conversations about the technology that the university is using, so that there could be some working together with regards to that. So those are just a couple of my notes that I had.
Thank you for that, Director Deschler. Director Freeman.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I'm hearing myself. Let me fix that. There you go. So, I'm still here. Okay, I threw the phone in the side of the room. Okay, a couple of things I want to add there. One of which is that the license plate recognition technology is something that I've been kind of struggling with, but honestly, a lot of the other contractors were looking at license plate recognition technology as part of their data collection process anyway. One of the things that was somewhat nice about the way that Dixon was approaching it, as mentioned, discussed with talking to the university, is that they kind of treat the license plate data in some sense more as our data than some of the other processes we've seen, and they are encouraging a process by which we would end up having anything that was collected and then having control over potentially the destruction of those things that are collected. And part of it in working with the other local agencies is to try to figure out how to make it so that anything that was already being collected could potentially be connected to this in a way that might be good, might be bad, but I'm in some sense coming to terms with the thought process of doing license plate recognition with Dixon for some of those reasons. The budget thing is an interesting one, and I feel like it's almost a strategy thing that we should really think through with respect to our timing of how we want to go ahead with things. So it was mentioned that the accessory dwelling units law that the county has put into place, that they're looking at having a parking study in order to be able to defend that program, potentially, for example, the Coastal Commission, et cetera. That's part of I think it's every 10 years, but there's a housing element update that has to get done in order to reallocate all of the affordable housing that is responsibility of all the different sub-jurisdictions of California. And so each county has to figure out where they're going to show that they're going to satisfy their part of the new affordable housing requirements. And that's something that the Isla Vista and our master plan / lack of master plan has kind of wedged their process in the past. And I do feel like it is their responsibility and that they are on the hook for doing all of that work. And it's not quite like if we don't get money from them, and they will, they'll be forced to do something small or something. Like, we've actually ended up as Isla Vista kind of destroying their processes in the past by pointing out flaws in their parking study. And so I feel like they're really on the hook to do this parking study, and they want to do the parking study in a way that Isla Vista has. There's a term for when you've got like a massive amount of buy-in on it, and so where you actually have a stake in the matter, and such that it's a little bit harder for that study to be kind of picked apart by the Isla Vista community. And I really do think that we should get money from them. Like, it would be really irksome if they decide to either try to run a parallel study, or the county ends up trying to just latch onto our study without providing a good amount of money for it. And so I think that we should figure out how to poke at them and lean on them for that process. Actually, one more bit about this I think is maybe important to think through is that some of the people who come at these parking studies are coming at these parking studies because of their implications with relation to the housing element. And so essentially we are entering the fray on affordable housing by working on parking. And I feel like we therefore should be getting the money from the county that the county is spending towards the process of getting their affordable housing plans through. So, yeah.
Thank you for that, Director Freeman. Director Aguilar.
Yes, real briefly, I just wanted to add some of the confidence that we had with Dixon was their communication skills and the diversity of experience that they represented when we interviewed them. They seem to have a much more clear understanding of the unique challenges that come with Isla Vista, with doing business with Isla Vista. And there wasn't a wariness, there wasn't a fear, there was genuine experience in other similar communities. And the ability to communicate some of these more complicated issues in language that was very understandable to the three of us directors made it really easy for me to support them as a choice. So I hope that others can see that in their study. And if anyone has any questions, please ask the three of us hard. We spent a lot of time working on this. I'm pretty proud of it.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Director Aguilar. I think that sums it up well. And I'll open it up for our board first if there's any questions for staff or for the committee. Director Topliff. I think
You're on mute.
I'm not familiar with parking studies, so I don't bring any background of understanding them to this. I did have, heart palpitation when I saw the number for assessment. And then as I am thinking through it, to me, it seems kind of simple that you have so many cars domiciled in Isla Vista and you have so many spaces, which I wonder, is that part of the data that you would be collecting? And then I also am thinking you have so many cars in Isla Vista. Some of them belong to people who live there, and some of them belong to people who came into Isla Vista for some other reason. And I'm even wondering how you could collect that, because often I would think that they would be registered in the parents' jurisdiction. So you wouldn't have an easy way to even see if it was a local car or an out-of-town car. So I'm just wondering exactly what kind of things we're looking for in data collection and how they contribute to the conversation.
Yeah, so what it says in the proposal is for 12 months of data collection, of counting parking occupancy, a weekday and a weekend, morning, afternoon, and evening, for 12 months. So that's like the max you can do, which is like every time a day, weekday and weekday, and for 12 months. So if we wanted to reduce that to 8 months and, only one count or something, that's where we can. But that's the 12. This is like the max amount you can do, and so they're going to do car counts or parking occupancy count. They're going to do a lot of different things like surveys and interviewing people as they park or as they come to their car.
And I guess the timeline kind of confused me too, because the data collection period seems longer almost than the project period. So don't you have to finish collecting data before you can do anything else?
The data collection runs through December. It's a year of data collection, and the project would end in July. So the way they've set it up maybe looks confusing on here, but they also want to set us up with a way to keep collecting data ourselves beyond the project being over. But yeah, data collection is, December on 2022, and then in 2023 it ends in February, and then the project will end in June. But all these will shift a little bit because we're not going to start now until April or so.
Carrie, I would add, oh, can I respond to Carrie?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Carrie, I was going to say, when we looked at the different proposals, data collection is like Jonathan said, 3/4 of every budget. When we spoke to Julie, she really, she indicated two things to us. One is she's very willing and has done this in the past to work with our other company, KTPA, I don't know what the other.
yeah.
Yes, to share that she has worked with them in the past and was willing to share data. So the data that they're gathering as it relates to the parking study that they're doing for the mobility study. So she said that's one thing. The other thing she said is we didn't give a budget in our RFP. We basically threw it out there to companies and said, this is what we want. Tell us what you can do. And so we haven't gone back to them to work the numbers or to further refine the numbers. And we shared with her that we said, where would we trim the budget if we needed to trim the budget? And she gave us ideas. And definitely it's in the data collection. The reason the data is important is because we want to know who's parking in Isla Vista. We want to know where they're parking. We want to know how long people are parking and where they're going when they go to Isla Vista. We want to know, are there more cars in the East End or are there more cars in the West End? We want to know, are cars going in and out that are around the same time as UCSB staff is scheduled? So there's a lot of questions to ask. And then we also want to know, depending on the type of year, we might have more students in IV in the fall than the spring. And so this data is going to point to all that. So there's a lot of questions to answer with the data that we're asking for. But I do think that she's very willing to make this, to narrow the scope.
And Jonathan, I missed I didn't write it down when you say it. What are the count intervals and how often are they happening?
Yeah, it's in what's attached, and it's for 12 months, morning, afternoon, evening, a weekend, and a weekday.
1 weekend, 1 weekday per month.
Yeah, so 2 days a month, full days for 12 months.
Thank you. Other questions from, thanks, Director Flaherty.
Hi, yes. So I have a few general comments and then a question. I'm in looking through the proposal, one of the first things that stood out, well, it was also one of the first things mentioned, was the ties to Isla Vista. And I just found that really important in being able to understand the dynamics of this community. It's such a unique community. And once you live in Isla Vista, you recognize how important parking is and how much it affects so much of your daily life. And so I really like that there is that personal connection to our community. And then I do also really appreciate how it would be 12 months to get a sense for the whole year, especially for putting in resources to this study. I personally think it would be important to do a full year. We're committing resources to it anyways. And some months are different than other months. Like some people graduate early and that's important to know if that affects parking. And also, I agree that it would definitely be valuable to get community partners for funding. This impacts not just the IVCSD, but so many other entities that have a stake in our community, including the university, including the county. So I would be really interested in seeing how those avenues can be explored and what the commitments would look like, and the timeline of when we would reach out to begin those conversations and really solidifying those partnerships. I don't really fully know what the timeline would look like, but I'd be curious about that. And then I was also curious about how this budget would be able to be pared down. So is the number that we're looking at for the data collection, is that like kind of the max? And then we could decide if we maybe want less months or less things studied. I guess just like a breakdown of that. Maybe I missed it as well. And yeah, so that's the things I'm curious about, is timeline for community partnerships, and also how the budget could be changed.
Budgets for the 12 months, then 2 days per month, and morning, afternoon, evening. That's what the 150 is.
To answer your question, Catherine, we have already had conversations with the county about this. One thing that we did is we really wanted to involve stakeholders early so that they knew what we were planning, so we could work on that engagement part. And so we reached out to County Public Works, we reached out to County Planning, UCSB, Transportation Parking Services, and I would ask other people who else they talked to, but we did reach out to a number of them, and so to try to lay the groundwork for this proposal. I think tonight we're not asking for a final vote on the budget. I think what we wanted to do, unless I'm wrong, is to just share with you where we are and then give us some general direction so that we can then go back to Dixon, refine the proposal, ask them for their advice on if 12 months is the maximum, what is 4 months better? Could we do 4 months? And what the quality of data that we get with 4 months, what is that versus 12 months? I think those are the kind of questions that we need to have. And then I think also the next step that the committee needs to do is have some more in-depth conversations with the county and the university about contributing to this project financially.
Thank you.
Director Freeman.
Yeah, that was something that I really want to make certain that we did this kind of back and forth update process, because as often as somebody who's on the other side on the board, when something's happening on a committee, it's like very finalized contract might come before the board, and it's like, well, now there's really not an opportunity to provide structural feedback or something more fundamental. As if you're concerned that the budget is twice as high as it should be, that's something that we're going to have to go back and really work with Dixon on. It's not something that at the final vote you can really be like, oh yeah, no, this needs to be half the cost. And so by doing this process of kind of going back to the board and saying, here's where we are and here's kind of like a checkpoint of our selection process, now we'd like to refine it and finish it. But
thanks for that, Director Freeman. I have a question about the scope as it relates to the recommendations. I'm skipping ahead of this actual surveying, but I know that part of this is creating policy recommendations. And I guess what I'm wondering is that if that policy recommendation is limited towards, like, say, here's the parameters of a program that you can write an ordinance for, or if it also incorporates, like, say, the managerial side of it, like what the staffing department, I guess, that would be needed and what that cost would be to us when those policy recommendations come forward. Is that something that they're proposing to include as part of their work?
I don't think we've gotten that detailed. They're just going to give us policy recommendations, is what they say.
Okay, well, I think that's an important element of any policy recommendation, because I don't know how we would be able to consider a different policy recommendation if we didn't also consider the costs and what that would look like to the district in terms of like its ongoing financial commitment. And I understand that, they can't, they might not want to provide us with a very in the weeds level of detail based off of most of their work being around the actual surveying and the planning of things. But I think that would be helpful to have clarified in terms of what that looks like. And I had another question too on the outreach, which is it looks like we're definitely involved and lots of stakeholders are involved. Is district staff going to be leading the outreach, or is it going to be sort of done jointly with Dixon, or would it be Dixon leading it?
I mean, it'll be done jointly, but they have a 30-some thousand budget for outreach, and this is a pretty significant project. So they'll be doing some work on it too. And we will too.
Yeah, Julie specifically said she's really excited about this project. I mean, you meet her, you just fall in love with her. I mean, she's just so committed. I mean, talk about someone who's like there. She's doing her life's work, right? She's so connected to it. It's phenomenal. So she's really excited about leading some of the stakeholder engagement aspects. And you could tell she'd be really good at it. So she definitely wants to work in partnership with the district, but she would lead some of them. She also, and this came up in some other conversations that we had, that it's really important as you're doing stakeholder engagement that you work with other entities in the community like KTP, whatever. I don't know why I can't remember, but I'm just going to say the K company. Because people can get fatigued in how much they're being queried and how much they're being asked to participate. And so that was another thing that I really appreciated about her, is her willingness and the precedent of her working with this other company, the K company, to kind of limit the fatigue and kind of over engagement of people.
Thank you for sharing that, Kirsten. Yeah, and thanks, Jonathan. That helps work it out a little bit more in my head. That's helpful. I have other thoughts, but I think we should hear from the public first. I'll open up public comment. If you'd like to make a comment on this item, you can hit the raise hand button, or you can put something in the chat and we will call on you. I see a hand from Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Good evening. I just wanted to voice support for this project. It seems, I think I agree with Director Flaherty as well, that just seeing the front cover of this being someone who's lived in Isla Vista was incredibly, comforting and important to see, and really gave important insight into, or that we have reason to assume and believe that they have a way to think about our community more holistically. And as someone who's actually lived here and understands how, just as every place is unique, I think Isla Vista is particularly unique. And so thinking about that, I think my only kind of feedback comments are, I think Director Brandt makes a good point about understanding the pricing of options. And obviously they don't have to budget them out, but if looking at other examples of what the cost of it has been to other cities that have implemented whatever the propositions that they're recommending, I think it's just a simple way, maybe a kind of a heuristic way for the board to think about cost. The other thing I would love to say is that, parking, and especially on-street parking, is, a tremendously expensive asset or liability to a place. And that's most notably seen in UCLA professor Donald Shoup's book, The High Cost of Free Parking. And so I really think, and maybe this is me being too much of a policy wonk advocate, but I really imagine, asking Dixon, how what they will be doing will fall in lines with Donald Shoup principles of free parking being a difficult negative on a city and its finances, and asking that specific question about how not only can not only can this make Isla Vista a better place, in terms of understanding its parking better, but how can there be recommendations to make Isla Vista a more like financially resilient city or excuse me, community service district, but hopefully future bigger government than just that. And so I think we need to think about that because, a lot of places have dug themselves into a hole with car-centric urbanism. And I think this is a good chance to think about that critically. And besides all the climate change stuff, like talking just purely the finances of infrastructure and upkeeping concrete for 80 years. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mark. Are there any other members of the public that want to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Do any directors have a discussion they'd like to start off with? I'll start then. And I really just want to say a big thank you to the parking committee for their work on this. This is a lot of very dense and technical documentation to go through. And in addition to that, as has been noted by all of your introductory comments to this item, there's so many different facets to it. There's so many different stakeholders that are involved. And I really appreciate hearing all the work that you've done to be in touch with all those different stakeholders and figure out where we can have some synergy potentially with the county's ADU study that they need to conduct as well. It seems like a great opportunity, and I think that it jives well too with the existing programs that the county has set up to collect developer fees from some of the newer buildings that have taken advantage of reduced parking minimums and paid into that fund for parking solutions, which I think is another great synergy. I want to appreciate what Director Freeman brought up about the camera technology, because I too was a little, unnerved when I saw that, and just really, I think that it would be good for everyone to find out a little bit more about how the privacy in regards to that technology works. I know that Jay, it sounds like, has already done some research on it, and I think that that's a good angle to continue to pursue, because we want to be sensitive to people's privacy if we are going to be conducting this survey. I know in the past, I guess the way that it's been done is really just individual teams of people going out and counting, and which can be somewhat arbitrary and not very scientific, as we've seen with some of the past county studies. So I like the idea that we could get more accuracy, but would also want to be sensitive to people's privacy. The last thing that I was going to mention is just on the cost. I can understand why I'm looking at a proposal that sometimes we might get a little bit of heartburn as the board when we see a price tag on something that's high. But I really think that this is an incredibly important undertaking, and it is going to be really important that we have very accurate data as we continue on all of these transportation and planning related issues. And I got to take a look at some of the other proposals that were submitted and can attest to what Director Deschler said. They were all very high. I think one of them came in at over $1 million for the entire study. And so even in talking with other transportation professionals, just based on where we are geographically with getting the teams that have expertise out here to conduct those surveys is a logistical effort that requires, putting people up in hotels, and it's intensive and it becomes expensive that way. So I would be less concerned, I guess, with the cost of that and more concerned with making sure that we're having accurate counts that are holistic for an entire year. Because I know that that's been one of the big sticking points that has hampered us in the past when we've been looking at different parking studies other agencies have done. Overall, again, I just really want to say thank you to the committee for working and working with this consultant. I too am very excited that this is someone who is local, someone who's lived in our community, understands the mishmash of organizations that provide services, and where they all kind of fit together. And it seems like the firm is very qualified. I think I saw in their letter that they call themselves like the parking experts or something like that, or like the parking problem solvers or something to that effect. So they're very well positioned to do this kind of work, and I'm happy at the direction that the committee is going with selecting them. Are there any other comments from board members?
I'll just say thank you, Spencer. It's very nice to be appreciated because this is, oh my gosh, this is really mind-numbing stuff, but it really important. I was just gonna say that I appreciate you saying to focus on the importance of the data, because what we were really careful about when we were thinking about this on the committee is that we really want to make sure that we have a really good report, and it's solid with data, so that we can't get people coming back to us and saying, well, why didn't you think of this, or why did you think of this, or anything to discredit. The whole idea of talking to stakeholders before we, in the last several months, is that we really wanted to make sure we're all kind of moving together, and that we're understanding where the university is at on some issues and the county is at some issues, so that we can really bring those questions and that feedback into this process to make sure we're kind of all on the same page. And getting good data is going to be really important to that process, so that we don't have entities coming back later and saying, well, you didn't consider this, and therefore, we're not going to be at the table, or whatever. So I think that was a real consideration for us with having good data. And I just appreciate you saying, not to think necessarily about the cost first, that the quality of data should really be driving a lot of this conversation. So thank you. And boy, having Jay and Marcos and Jonathan has been very helpful. We're such a great team. We have different strengths and weaknesses, and we complement each other well. So, yeah.
Thank you for those comments, Director Deschler. Any other board members have comments they'd like to share? Director Aguilar.
Yeah, I kind of want to remind my other committee members and also people on the board of a conversation we had in early February with Ross about the future and the legal powers around parking and what is coming down the line in an era when not all of us might still be on the board, but how we allow those future directors, the future of Isla Vista, to make an informed decision. Because if, as Mark kind of pointed at his comment, free parking and the cost to the local community, we're sitting on top of a parking gold mine. If someone decided to charge for parking and all this, that's a lot of money and income. And I think it's important to be ahead of that curve, to be ahead of any questions that the county has. And so that's what we've been doing with also a part of our community outreach, is just to make sure that we're not trying to dupe anyone. We're trying to be honest. We're trying to have the right data. That way we have a safer community and we have a more livable, sustainable community. But that conversation was one of my favorites because I learned so much at 9 a.m., which doesn't always happen. And there's a lot of future parking that we'll have to discuss beyond who we choose to do this data, who we choose to do this survey work. So choosing the right people from the first step is very important.
Thank you for those comments, Director Aguilar. Any other thoughts from board members? Director Freeman.
We're doing really high-level thoughts like that. I mean, I think it's worth remembering that this is an extremely contentious thing that we are now embarking on, and something that has made very strong enemies between various other groups as they've attempted to work on them. And so whereas we go and we attempt to work on the community center and to the extent to which there are animosities, it's it's turf wars, but it's not tearing apart stakeholder groups fighting at each other. Even as when we work on things like landlord-tenant housing mediation, and we might decide that some of the people that we end up pissing off in the process, that's okay. That whereas I feel like with parking, we are going to end up in a situation where we have people that strongly supported us coming to our board saying that everything that we are doing is horribly wrong and needs to stop immediately. And I do think that it is a dangerous topic from that standpoint for us to be venturing into, given that people have been trying to do this, and various very well-intentioned, sometimes very local groups have attempted to solve this problem now for 40, 50 years, and no headway has been made on it. And that the political topic areas that end up getting dragged in, such as affordable housing and parking turning into a proxy war for your feelings on density in the area. I am always concerned when we work on parking, we are going to be spending a very large amount of money towards something that will end up being our downfall. That said, I also believe that this is one of the core problems that our community has had for the past 40 or 50 years. And that I think that one of the things that has made it so difficult to work on this problem has been the lack of a strong local trusted government body. And that now that we have such a thing, that might be the opportunity to do it differently. And that maybe we will be able to succeed. But those hopes are tempered by the remembrance of the reality on the ground. And so I am excited what we might be able to accomplish here, but still terrified.
Thank you for that, Director Freeman. And I come at it from a little bit more of a rosy perspective, I guess one could argue, which is kind of where you were going at the end. This is a core problem that our community faces, and really, this is part of a broader conversation that we've been having for over a year now about what does transportation look like in our community? How can we make sure that people can get from point A to point B in a way that's sustainable and a way that's equitable? And this is just one other piece of that. And I'm proud of us for the work that we've done getting us to this point, because this was a core promise of the what brought this district into existence. You know, in the original ballot language, thoroughly discussed during the Assembly Bill 3 process in 2014, 15, and 16. And so it feels good. And I know too that this is the 5th year anniversary of the existence of the district. Well, 5th year and 1 day, because it was yesterday, 5 years ago, that we had our first board of directors meeting and officially came into existence. So I think it's very fitting timing that we would be tackling these issues. I remember the first year on the board, we heard from, I think we're somewhat in consensus on the board that we didn't want to touch parking with a 10-foot pole because of its technical complexity and its propensity to get us into conversations where we'd find ourselves in over our head. But I'm really happy to, just with all the capacity that we've been building to talk about these issues, you know, with our discussions about planning and all of our work on the STEP grant, which I think is going to have tremendous benefits, maybe even sooner rather than later, as far as the data that's collected there. And so again, just really want to say thank you to everyone on the committee and staff for working on this. And would, as a side note, would love to say hi to the consultant at some point. Maybe, I don't know if it'll work at a board meeting or offline, whatever it is. Would love to connect with them. So I think we're not asked for action tonight. We're just asked for updates. So I think unless there's any other comments from board members, we can close this item. The committee and staff will take the feedback received into account, and we can move to the next one. And the next item on our agenda is the Isla Vista Community Spaces Update. I'll hand it over to Jonathan and Maya.
Thank you. Let me get Ethan back in here. All right. Well, yeah, I'm excited to have Maya present on some of the work she's been doing the last 2 months. She's been now working with us for 2 months officially. And so she's going to just go over the usage. We used to do this report 2 years ago before we wasn't able to use the rooms anymore. But so we're getting back to this of having a report on the usage of the space and some proposals and ideas of how to go forward in there too that we'd like to get direction on. So I'll make it possible for Maya to share your screen and you going.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am very excited to go over our progress so far. It's only been 2 months, but I think we've gotten a lot done so far. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Move you off to the side. Okay. So let's talk about our progress on the Isla Vista community spaces. So just a little bit of the content of this report so you can see what's coming. First, I'm going to go over our January and February calendars, what that's been looking like. Then I'm going to break down some of the events we've been having, talk about why we're going with vendors, some hours improvement we've seen since 2018, our current partnerships, some event times, days of the week, and the hours we've been using, number of people in the space, and the overall demographics of our event so far. Then I'll get back into some user feedback. So I sent out a survey and we're going to talk about those results, some highlights and event comments, and also get into some of their feedback. And then to close the report, I'm just going to talk about some overall progress we've had and some plans / proposals that I have for the future. So I'm going to go over physical achievements, improvement suggestions, a little bit about what I've been up to, some proposals, and close with some upcoming events and a little bit of a discussion about some COVID policies. So to start off, this is what our community center calendar looked like in January. You can see that we have some spaces that are empty, but for the most part, the Goleta Valley Library book van has been a big component, and also our church services on Sundays. And then we had one event being Jeffrey's Jazz Coffee House that was a big success I will get into later. Then when we look at the community room, it was a little bit more quiet, but we have had consistent users of the Ivy Regional Entry Point team that primarily works with providing resources to the local homeless population. They've been consistent every Wednesday and Friday. Then moving into February, the community center did pick up in some of our progress. We have some more regular events. For example, we started the Books on Wheels Cafe, which I'll go more into detail about that later. We started some vendor work with dance classes twice a week and a computer literacy program that launched later in the month. Also, Grace Point started doing some Friday special discussions on Friday nights. So you can kind of see some of that progress here for the community center. And then also when we're looking at the community room, in addition to having the Ivy Regional Entry Point, we had InterVarsity do their weekly meetings. They kind of alternated between the room and the center just because of scheduling conflicts with the computer literacy course. And then this does show a board meeting for IVRPD, but they did not end up doing it last month, but they will be doing it in the room this coming week, actually. So overall, where's my previous slide? Well, I'm just going to break down the events. So basically for Reservation, so these are people in the community that reserve our space that we do not pay. It's completely free. So we have the Goleta Valley Library mobile book van coming 3 times a week, Grace Point Church Service and Friday Discussions, which is 1 to 2 times per week, Jeffrey's Jazz Coffee House, which has become almost a frequent monthly event. They didn't have one in February because it was a short month. The Point in Time Homeless Count occurred this last month in February, which is a yearly thing. It was from 5 to 10 a.m. They provided some snacks, did a little count. UCSB $5 Studios did LinkedIn headshots. So this was actually a TMP class that was doing a project, and they opened it up on free and for sale for people to come get their headshots done in the community center, which is a great thing for us because it also showed off how great it's been looking. As far as IVCSD events that have been there, we do the Books on Wheels Cafe once a week, which is basically I set up a table with free pastries, coffee, and I have some picnic blankets so people can check out the Goleta Valley Library mobile book van, maybe grab a book, grab a snack, hang out. This week I actually did it with music and we saw a lot of success there. So it's been going pretty well. And then we also had the lighting walk that Sydney, our community engagement officer, put on. And that was also pretty successful using the C-Click-Fix app. Then in addition, we had one vendor that we started this February, and he does the bachata, salsa, and Cuba salsa dance classes twice a week. I've actually been checking in on these. They're pretty great, and they have allowed us to reach some demographics that we haven't with our reservations. This total vendor cost here is how much it costs to hire his dance class service all the way up until the end of June when the budget changes. So why do we pick vendors in the first place? So one reason is that we want our vendors to cater directly to community requests based on their goals and needs for the community center. Dance classes and Zumba was something that I saw in a lot of my passed on reports that the community really wanted to see. And like I said, I've been attending these just to check in on them, and I do see community members enjoying the services. The second one is that vendors are guaranteed to occupy the space regularly to ensure there's always something happening in the community spaces for community members to enjoy, which is really nice because right now we have dance classes twice a week. They have them every week, and we don't have to worry about consistency at all. And then the last impact that vendors do is that they provide services that would otherwise be pretty expensive for low-income families and for students to enjoy. When we look at the Isla Vista Community Room breakdown, we see that we've really only been doing reservations in there thus far. We have the Ivy Regional Entry Point, which I already talked about a little bit, the InterVarsity Meeting, which, like I said, goes back and forth between the community room and the community center. And then also the computer literacy class, which is bi-weekly on Thursdays right now. So now we can see the hours improvement by weeks. So in January, we had 4 hours in the community room, which we were able to double in February to now 8 hours. And then in the community SAR, we saw about 23 hours a week, which now we have increased to 30 hours a week in just 1 month, which is pretty good. When we look about comparing our total hours per month, on the top, you can see the community center and room combined hours that you last reviewed in 2018. So we can see a range from about 50 hours total for the month to about 102. So far this year, we've done really well. So in January, the center saw 111 hours. And then in February, we increased to 134 hours for the month. And as for the room, in January, we saw 16 hours, but in February, we saw an increase to 22 hours. So overall, we have been doing pretty well compared to 2018. Moving forward to some of the current partnerships that we've been working with, starting off with the Pathpoint Homeless Shelter. So this is a semi-local homeless shelter and that we've done a donation partnership with. They brought over, some donation boxes that when people had events, I encouraged them to, let their attendees know that there will be a donation box. And we actually had pretty good success with that. I've also been working with STESA, Standing Together Against Sexual Assault, on a marketing partnership. So I kind of send them things I think that would be useful for their clients. And I also posted a list of their current resources up at the community center. I've also been working with Ivy Frege on a donation partnership. So anytime on the Books on Wheels Cafe, I have anything left over, I go ahead and bring it over to the Ivy Frege. Ivy Youth Projects, I have been talking with them as well to expand our outreach to families and kids. We've just been collaborating over Zoom on ways that we can uplift each other's programs and find ways that we can enhance what we offer. I've also been working with St. George's Youth Program to expand our outreach to community members under 18. So that's like the local teens and also elementary students. I've been working with IV Arts to source artists and provide space for artists to display their work. I'll get more into that later, but they have been a great asset just when I'm looking for a graphic designer or trying to put together an art project. They've been a really great point of contact. And then also a more recent one is I've been working with KCSB local radio to source musicians and bands for future shows at the community center, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, hopefully more to come on that soon. So I'm going to start with the usage report of the Ivy Community Center. This here on the right is a photo from our Books on Wheels Cafe kickoff. So as you can see, I've got lots of fruits, some cupcakes, some plates, some coffee, and then you can kind of see the book van set up over here. So as far as event time so far, we have primary usage in the afternoon with some morning and evening activity, although it's not as popular as our afternoon times. And I know it's really small, but you can kind of see this box right here. That is the donation box that Pathpoint brought over that we were able to help them with. Moving on to days of the week of referring to the community center. So Tuesday right now is our most active day of the week with 8 hours consistently. A lot of that has to do with the book van and then also the Books on Wheels cafes. And then recently also the dance classes as well. But you can see on the right here is a breakdown of how many hours per day. Saturday looking to be our lowest day, which will be good for future events that we can schedule on Saturdays. Moving into the number of people attending community center events. So as of right now, we have 777 total users in these 2 months that we've reopened. I broke these down into the intensity categories that we have on our general rules. So for high intensity, meaning more than 50 people, we've had 7 events. One of them being Jeffrey's Jazz Coffee House, which you can see on the right here. This is a picture from their first show that they did in January. It was beautiful. They set up everything outside and all of the band brought their own equipment. So it looks fantastic. And then the other high intensity is actually going to be the Grace Point church services that approximate about 80 people per Sunday service. Then for medium intensity, we have about 3 events from 30 to 50 people. That's normally going to be some of our meetings and also some of the events that we have done. And then primarily we have low intensity events of less than 30 people. Moving on into the demographics broadly of all of these events, we can see that we've got primarily college students and homeless community members joining. And as of right now, families and kids under 18 are our lowest demographic count and therefore our top priority for future community engagement and event planning. When we talk about our vendor events, so as of right now, our only vendor is the salsa, Cuban salsa, and bachata dance classes. Computer literacy is not part of his vendor cost. It's something he's doing for free, but it is something that we sourced as a separate entity than reservations. So far in 1 month, we have had 10 users, which is low. However, we are just starting off and we are able to reach a more specific demographic count, which I'll get into in the next slide. To the right here is kind of a photo of both of the instructors working really one-on-one with some community members. As you can see right now, salsa is our most popular, which he did tell me would be a thing just because bachata and Cuban salsa aren't quite as well known as dance styles, but hopefully he can work to convince people that come to the salsa class that there's more to enjoy. When we look at the demographics of these vendor events, we can see that primarily female with only about 1 male that's come thus far. As far as nationality, we have more of a broad range with some Mexican and Argentina attendees. Age, we have some over 65, a little 50 to 59, and some 30 to 39, with our largest being 20 to 29. So we can see that when compared to our reservation events, we're getting a more of a wide range of ages involved. And how they found out, just good for us to know for future marketing, about 20% was on social media, 20% through flyers, and about 60% of word of mouth. So it's good to keep talking about them. And now we're going to move into the usage report for the IV community room. Over on the right here, this is a picture of our flyer for our free computer literacy course that we put around town, just so you can kind of see what our impact is looking like. Event times in the community room are primarily in the afternoon due to the twice a week regional entry point, and some evening activity being some of the late night meetings and the recently just started computer literacy course. Days of the week have pretty much been restricted to Tuesdays and Thursdays, with Tuesday having about 2 hours and Thursday being 2 to 4, due to some of the biweekly events like the computer literacy and intervarsity meetings. Moving on to the demographics of the events in the community room, we have primarily homeless community members, which is to be expected because one of the big resources is providing resources to them. And then we also have families and kids under 18 are again our lowest demographic count and therefore our top priority for community engagement. So now we're going into some user feedback for the Ivy Community Center. This picture is one that I took before Sydney's lighting walk, kind of shows the sign and briefly almost what the setup looks like. These are some of the new plants in the community center, but I will show you more very soon. So overall, we've had really positive user reviews. So the survey I sent out to people who reserved the space and after they use it shows that all the users have found the cleanliness of the building, logistics of reservations, and the overall space to be more than satisfactory. On the right here, I have some quotes. I'll read the first top two. The space was clean, easy to use, and enjoyed by all attendees. An awesome service. Thank you so much for what you do for the community. And then the bottom one is just talking about how they really like the plants, the chairs, the storage zone, and things that I will get into more detail about. As far as user feedback, the largest point of feedback was the echo in the room and the need for rugs. The floors are also an increasing issue for programs like dance classes that are starting to use the space. There was a recommendation by Jeffrey's Jazz Coffee House actually to potentially install some piping around the room to allow users to section off different areas and hang material to help with the echo. This is just something that people can tie like fabric to. When I say piping, that's just the language that she had used. The fourth thing is that parking seems to be a large area of confusion for users. So the community center parking lot can be kind of confusing, as some of you may or may not know. And then sometimes the parking in the back can be pretty full. So I understand it's just something that, you know, we're collaborating with and looking for solutions for. And then the fifth thing is that signage also reported as an issue of just some community members distinguishing between the room and the community center, which is also something that we are in the works of working on right now. So on the right is just some quotes. So talking about soundproofing, how the furniture and plants are helping, but more perhaps carpet would go a long way. And then also a request for a sound system that meets the unique acoustic needs of the space, maybe a wall board that promotes events of the month to people using the space. Moving into some user feedback about the Ivy community room. So overall, again, pretty positive reviews. Survey shows that all the users have found the logistics of reservations and overall space to be more than satisfactory. Some quotes on the side said, "It's a lovely space. Thank you for everything you provide to the Ivy community." Some feedback that we've got, the largest point of feedback was the overall cleanliness of the space. We do have a cleaning team that goes in there, but storage needs to be more organized with less clutter from existing users. A lot of this is about conversation away, just distinguishing what belongs to who from prior to the pandemic and the rooms being shut down. Some users also requested a presentations TV and extra masks. If people come and they don't have a mask and we need masks for indoor events, then extra masks on handy would be great. So on the left here, you can kind of see some of the quotes. One of them is talking about storage for some of the tables and chairs and just overall moving things around the space. So now we're going to talk about some overall progress and some of the proposals that I have prepared for you. So this picture is what the entryway looks like when you walk into the community center. It's just a little shelf. I think right now I also have a couple books on there. Yeah, that's what it looks like so far. So I have some before and after videos. The after one is already showing, but I will play this before one. You can look at both. So in the before, you can kind of see that there is a ton of clutter back here, just things I had to figure out who belonged to who. But in the end, we've got some plants in there. A storage area was created. I made a little office, both that I've been using and also users use them to welcome their guests. We've got a nice plant wall going, and this was actually another point for the Books on Wheels Cafe today. Just to give you more of an idea of what this has been looking like. Now to take a look at some more static pictures. So this is a shelving unit that, or not shelving unit, curtains. Yeah, curtains, we can call that. Kind of like a makeshift storage unit to just make it more organized in the space. I had Grace Point, the church, people who run the church service, volunteered to make it and donate for us. So they made the curtains and left them there for us to use. And then I went ahead and organized a volunteer day to help me bring all of these chairs into the community center. And then I stacked them in a way where they fit just perfectly and had a way to store the extra dance floors, extra tables, some ladders, and just more things for people to use. But that way they're not just like scattered around the building, but they have a designated place. Then right here in this picture, you can see the welcome area that was created. So I just kind of moved the couches that were already there. I had someone come and deep clean them. And then just again, really using the plants to make that space look very lively. On the right, these are the plants in the entryway. And then you can kind of see an overall view of what it looks like. Some things have moved since this picture, as you can see, but this is generally what it looks like when you're standing back and looking at the space. Now moving into some of our physical accomplishments that we've been able to do in this time. So I've removed all the trash and excess items in the community center, kind of what you saw in that first video. I created an office space in the community center by just moving over an extra desk and chair that I found in one of our rooms. I hired a contractor to install 8 shelving units. I purchased plants and plant pots to reduce the overall echo in the community center, which has helped, although we're definitely going to need to do some more. Created 2 seating areas in the community center, one welcome area, which I just showed you, and one lounge area on the other side of the room. I created a covered storage space and transferred over 50 chairs and 5 tables with the help of some volunteers. I rehired Big Green Cleaners to deep clean the community center and reestablish a cleaning schedule twice per week. They're there on Tuesdays and Friday evenings now. I purchased some local picnic blankets for the Books on Wheels Cafe and also for extra seating options at the community center. I've been encouraging users to take them, use them, take your events onto the grass area that we have as well, just to diversify what we're able to offer. I've also organized installation of the Goleta Public Library book drop-off, which you can see on the right or on the left here. These are the 2 book van workers that I have grown close with, being there all the time, and they were very happy about this installation, and I've already seen some families use it, which is great. I also repurposed an old A-frame board and purchased chalk pens to improve the signage for events, both for IVCSD and for users. So that's what the lighting walk thing was on. And then also we recently just had another event that the users use the chalk markers just to have some better signage for the event. I also worked with the county to make some new office keys and labels, just making sure all of the keys are labeled so they can just get less confusing when we're trying to find what goes where. And then I also organized an office cleanup with basically the whole IVCSD employment team. So Jonathan was there, Sydney was there, Carly was there, and we had a good time, I would say, just going through all of the old paperwork and things. Some things need to be sorted, some things just clearing off, dusting the place. So if you have time and access to the office, I recommend checking it out. I didn't take any pictures, but there's even some plants in there and it looks great. Everyone did a great job with that. As far as what I have been up to and what I've been doing, so I've been putting together the Books on Wheels Cafe each week, which has been something that I've really come to enjoy, especially with the music today. I got to see a lot of family members come when I put candy out too, so that was nice. I also created an event reservation checklist to help users. So I made a guide, which is a PowerPoint that you can see on the website. This is what the cover looks like right here. And then I also just made a checklist so that when people are planning on submitting an event, they just have something easy they can look at with all the rules, and then something to help them plan out their event that will make just events hopefully, better at the community center, or at least, motivate them to think about things that maybe they hadn't before. I also met with each new and existing user in person to give them a tour of the new space. It's not really a requirement for everyone to do a walkthrough. So if people don't, then that's fine. But almost everyone is really excited to see the community center open. So I've just really been making time to make sure that the community can actually come in, talk to me. I'll answer any of their questions, and just kind of show them around what we offer, some ideas they can do for the space. And everyone that I've met with so far has really appreciated that, and has been more eager to plan more events there, just because they see what it looks like, and the possibilities are endless once you see it. I've also been meeting with local nonprofits to just better assess what the community needs, and then we can collaborate on events. I updated all the old waivers and contracts, and made them independent from IVYP and just for IVCSD, since we've taken over the spaces. I also started making contracts for vendors. So far I made the contract for the dance classes, and I'm also working on another contract, which I will tell you about later. I've also been attending the vendor and special events to ensure they feel supported. So like I said, I've been going to the salsa classes just to make sure everything runs smoothly, and some of the other events we've done. I've also been working very closely with Sydney, the community engagement officer, on different marketing plans and strategies, both for events and then also just for things that we have overlap for. We both really want to make great things for the community. So it's been great to work with her on some of those projects. I've also been creating and distributing flyers for events, posting daily stories about what's happening in the community center, if you've seen them, crafting sign designs with Jonathan and Sydney to help with some of the signage issues, actively finding new potential users and emailing them to schedule a meeting. So I basically just scour, local IV, both Instagram pages or just from word of mouth organizations that I know have a big say in what goes on, and just try to work with them in any way I can, get them into this space, see what they need. And then, as you've seen from all of the results I've collected, I created a survey for users to collect data post-event to implement the community feedback. So that's where you're seeing all this feedback, and how I've collected it all. I really took some time to make a survey because I want the spaces to cater to the community, and the only way to do that is to talk to the community themselves. So that is what I have been doing. Here are just a few improvement suggestions that I have that obviously are open for discussion. The first one is seemingly easy. So based on user feedback, some rugs, additional plants, and the cork art wall, which I'll get into my proposals, are really a priority to reduce the echo in the building, and also the addition of a boom gate, which I will get into my proposals as well. Suggestion number 2 is more of the medium things that we can do. So things like a new sound system and maybe some new seating would improve the overall quality of the space. I know the couches and chairs we have in there right now were donated to us. So if we wanted to invest in something that lasted a little more long-term, we can also do that. And then suggestion 3, which is a little bit on the difficult side, which would be based on current users, patching and sealing the concrete floor would drastically improve safety conditions. And I have some pictures what this would look like for each of these things. So this is kind of like the idea I'm seeing for the rugs, something that's going to last. I'd like to do local vendors. However, I know that would be more expensive. So I'm open to collaborating with people on that. This is kind of the idea I'm seeing if we get couches, maybe something that's leather that can be easy to clean and easy to keep nice. And then this is what sealed concrete floors look like on the right. And I found this picture, which has a very similar garage door to the community center. So just to kind of give you a visual idea of what I am suggesting for the community center. Now moving into my first proposal, now that you've seen all that I've done and my suggestions, these are more of my proposals. So on the left here is a picture of some of the cork that I'm thinking to create a monthly art exhibit wall. So there's like a 60-foot wall in the community center on the front, on the opposite side of the garage doors. And this cork would essentially line 20 feet of that wall, and I would open it up to local artists by partnering with Ivy Art to provide an extra space for them to exhibit their art. When I was meeting with the head of Ivy Arts, she was telling me that as of right now, the only space really for people to exhibit is the Ivy box, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but basically the Ivy box is a very small like glass board thing that is in the Ivy Theater. So this would just be a drastic change of pace, and we would allow to display a lot more art to the community that before wouldn't have been possible. And it also would be a community event open to everyone. So once a month, we'll have an art exhibit, we'll have music and snacks, and really welcome the community to check out what their local artists are doing and, really give them some of the recognition that they deserve. So the estimated maximum cost for the art wall would be $2,000. It's about $1,000 to get the acoustic thick cork that would actually make the difference with the echo. And they come in the form of tiles that we would then have to put up with the help of our contractor. So yeah, just the supplies to put all that together, I'm estimating a maximum of $2,000 because the cork alone is about $1,500. Moving on to proposal number 2, which is working with the MTD microtransit program. So we've already been talking to them about having the community center as a meeting place to provide direct transportation to needed destinations. For example, Trader Joe's has been a highly requested location, so that's something that we are considering and leaning towards, I will say. This was something that was highly requested by the community, and it is open to all residents of IV. And if we do the Trader Joe's option, which we have discussed, I've been working with Sydney to design some free tote bags with designs from local artists to offer people on their way to get groceries. So you can kind of see these two designs here. This one at the top of the IV Community Center was actually made from someone sourced through IV Arts, which was very nice. And then this one right here of the Pardal Center and Kaje, this is someone on our Compost Collective team that also does graphic design. And they both made this just out of the purpose for the tote bags. They put their signatures on it, and we are welcome to print them on the tote bags and hand them out. This reduces waste and also promotes the reopening of the IVCC and also empowers our local artists to feel great about some of the things that they create. To ensure that parking transitions run smoothly, I also propose that we install a boom gate with multiple passcodes instead of the current daisy chain lock system that we have now in front of our parking. That has been a little bit confusing for users as well. And so IVRPD, who owns most of the parking lot, also with MTD, Goleta Valley Library, and then us at IVCSD will have our own codes to access the parking lot to just reduce some of the confusion that we've been seeing and also make it a lot easier for these MTD buses to come in and out of the parking lot with their proposed microtransit program. I will open this up at the end of the presentation for Jonathan to give you some more detail on as well, but our estimated cost is about $15,000 to purchase and install this boom gate and passcode situation. So proposal number 3 is also something I'm really excited to talk about, which is the Thriving Initiative mural project. So the Thriving Initiative is a local nonprofit that works with survivors of interpersonal violence, and they do both coping skill workshops directly for survivors where they maintain confidentiality, but then they also work to promote holistic healing initiatives that involve the whole community, like community events. And so that's really what we would be partnering with them with is this community art project. So the idea is that it would be a quarter-long weekly art therapy workshop led by a local art therapist and a mural planner. So the art therapist will be there to facilitate creativity and to help plan the mural concept with participants. And the participants for the workshop will be sourced from a Google Form application sent out to both UCS students and community members. And the goal of that is to find people who have experienced any form of interpersonal violence. And I'm also working with Sydney on this as well, so that if we do this project, we will be able to frame our language in a way that keeps, the identities of survivors confidential and also makes it welcome to the community when we do have the community event. So there's more detail on that as well. The mural planner will actually be there to plan how the mural process will unfold for a community event on painting day. So it's a workshop throughout spring quarter, and then we'll have one final community art project day. And their saying is really, everyone is an artist. So we have the mural idea planned, and then we invite everyone in the community, including the people that have worked on it, to come help us paint it. And I also did pitch to them maybe having a few open spaces for community members to just kind of add in what they want to see in this mural. So really giving that element of inclusivity to anyone who wants to help out on this project. And then, yeah, on the right here is just a quote from the Thriving Initiatives Project to give you a better idea of what they stand for. Our team works to build and promote new holistic healing initiatives for other groups, as well to create a more connected and resilient community. So this is kind of, it's a looping video, but just somewhere on this wall is what we're thinking for the mural. We're thinking more along the lines of the side of that window, but we're still collaborating, and we're also open for suggestions from the board as well. So what would this look like? They've done an event similar to this in the past. They didn't use the art facilitator or the mural planner. They just had these big wooden boards and invited anyone who was interested to just come and paint something on them. And this is what it looked like in the end. I think that it looks really great, and it does stick to the saying of everyone's an artist. So just come and paint what makes you happy. And I think they look lovely. So my proposal number 4, which I've been talking with the infamous Rogers Tacos with briefly already, but would be Tacos Tuesdays and Thursdays with Rogers Tacos at the community center. So we currently host the salsa, Cuban salsa, and bachata dance classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays already. So my idea for the tacos is that they will increase the foot traffic to the community center outside, of course, around the time of the dance classes, so that maybe people can kind of peer in while they're getting their tacos and just see what's going on. Maybe they'll want to stay and dance for a while. The way he runs his class is very fluid and open, where it doesn't matter when people walk in, they can just jump in and he'll work with you one-on-one to pick up the step. So that was really my goal there. And then in addition, we host a computer literacy class on Thursdays in the evenings. And we received a lot of complaints from families that the evening times are difficult due to childcare and dinner time with the family. It's placed around 6 to 8 right now. So we really thought that Taco Tuesdays and Thursdays, especially on Thursdays, would help with that. So come grab dinner, bring your kids and get some food, and then you can come sit in on this class and just ask some questions you have. Because the computer literacy course is basically like an open discussion. So people come in with their, technical questions like, how do I get into this Zoom? Or why is my phone telling me this? And then he really just sits with them and answers their questions and works with them. So this Roger Tacos event would allow families to have dinner provided before or during their class, whichever they prefer. And I also talked with them about getting the first 30 people that come get tacos for free. So that's just a nice advertising thing that we can say, like free tacos, and it's a regular thing. So I think that it will generate a lot of traffic to the community center on a more regular basis. And these are pictures of Rogers Tacos if you have not seen them around. This is what they look like. And they're great food. Now to talk a little bit about our upcoming events. Some of these have already happened because it's March 8th, but this report is only for January and February. So Jeffrey's Jazz Coffee House just returned for another show on March 4th. They had to move it indoors this time because of the wind, and it looked great from what I saw. The Made and Found Market, which if you're not familiar with it, it's local art vendors come together to display and sell their art to the community, which was on March 5th. I actually stopped by and checked it out. It was completely packed. It looked great in the community center. I will share pictures on our next report. It was great to see, how much life can be brought into the community center. It was really great. Highly recommend. I got a lot of things from there. Then on soon, beginning March 28th, we're going to be working on Yoga Mondays. This is in pink because this is another vendor that I found. She will be doing morning yoga classes, more targeted to some of the families that told us that the evening classes weren't fitting with their schedule. And then also a candlelit Reiki yoga class. Reiki, we will have more information about that. She gave me a whole, spiel about what it is. But if you're not familiar, it's just something to do with your energy, and it's essentially just a very relaxing yoga class centered around mindfulness and meditation. And those will begin March 28th. Then we also have SASA and SCORE planning event. I just met with them today, actually. So that stands for Students Against Sexual Assault, and then the Student Commission on Racial Equality. And they're planning an event to highlight the intersection between sexual violence and race through an art project and tabling event on April 16th. Basically, my idea of what this is going to look like, they're having some big canvases that they're going to put some handprints on, and then they're also just going to have a lot of score resources tabling through the event. I think they're going to have some bands come and also have some student speakers come to the event. The Ivy Co-op 50th anniversary event was relocated into April, I believe. Yes, April. And basically it's just going to be educational lectures about the co-op and a community celebration. UCSB Ecstatic Artist Collective is actually a new club that just opened up, and they want to use the community center for weekly meetings and a collaborative art space for local artists. They're talking about having things like art tools that people can check out and just gathering times for everyone to just talk about different forms of art. I think it ranged from like fashion shows to sculptures to just painting projects. So it sounds like there's going to be a lot of variety for people to participate in. There's also going to be a local album tournament in spring quarter, which they're going to do weekly listening parties with a closed group that anyone's welcome to join. And they're just going to rate each album and see which one is the best at the end. The UCSB Drug and Alcohol Program we are collaborating with for the Pardal Festival in April. The Santa Barbara Resource Network is going to be hosting a psychological first aid workshop. I'm working with the leaders of that nonprofit right now to really find a good time for it, but that's a great resource for students that want to become therapists, or even just people who want to know more about being an ally for someone when they've gone through crisis. I think especially in light of the things that have been happening in Isla Vista, something like this can be very beneficial for the community. And then closing off is the Internal El Flamenco Vive. This is in pink as well, because I think we're going to have to work with them on certain elements to make sure that it's a free event to the community. But essentially, these Spanish artists, both a dancer and a musician, are touring, and they found the community center and they thought it would be a great place to stop on their tour. So I'm currently working out a way that we can bring them into the space and offer a very unique cultural experience for the community to enjoy on May 11th. And I checked it out and they are very talented. So hopefully that goes together well. Now I kind of want to move in more into a discussion before I summarize everything I just talked about. So as we all know, Santa Barbara County just recently changed their health requirements as far as masks indoors. So as a community center, I also wanted to talk about these policies. At the bottom here, I have what our current COVID-19 policies are as far as the general rules and regulations that both we abide by and I send out to our users. And this is what it says as of now, is that users shall comply with and enforce with all of their guests the public health orders issued by the County of Santa Barbara Public Health Department and State of California Public Health Department. Users utilizing either space must require vaccination of all guests and provide the district a plan for doing so in order to confirm a reservation. So basically my question is, this is open to the board and this is more of like a discussion point is, do we want to keep our mask mandate indoors, even though the county has changed the regulations? Is this something that we want to change? It's not something that we would directly have to change in the policy, just more on how I debrief users and, really update the user reservation requirements. And then also the vaccine requirements, if we want those to stay the same or if we want to make any changes. So I will pause for a moment if anyone would like to chime in. Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sure. Thanks so much for the presentation. And it sounds like it's just a pause. So we'll hold our general comments till the end. But I think I saw a hand from a director. I missed who it was though. Was it you?
It was me, Jay. Yeah. So I guess my thought process here, honestly, is to ask the staff who have to deal with the building what they feel comfortable doing. This is an incredibly difficult topic because it effectively ends up causing a bunch of arguments, both between users and like the people who are organizing events and you, the people who are coming to events, and the organizers who then blame you. While they might indirectly eventually realize that, us on the board are to blame for some policy, we're not the people who are getting yelled at on a day-to-day basis. And I can see it going either way. honestly, with masks or without masks, causing more or less arguments. And so I just I went to a conference in Colorado, just as they decided, which I don't think was a good idea, just as they decided to remove the mask mandate in Colorado, which I was not expecting as I even got there. And this is all being dismantled. And I was wearing masks at events, and I was starting to feel kind of bullied by other attendees who were really like bothered that I was the one person at their event that was wearing a mask. And why was I? And by the end of the thing, wasn't wearing a mask, and I got COVID. So I really am curious what you think should happen and what will make you feel comfortable dealing with this. So.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that as well. I've had very mixed reviews just from my users so far. Some of the bigger events, it's hard to police the masks. I'll just be honest. When there's a lot of people coming in and out of the space, let's say it's an indoor-outdoor event, I'm not always going to be there to be like, put on your mask. Nor do I really want that responsibility. However, safety comes first. So that's why I'm opening the discussion. Things like the dance classes right now, they're pretty small. And I know that he's been using a mask, but he has run into some issues where, some of the dancers don't have a masks, and, how do we accommodate that? So, if we do want to continue the masks, I'm just going to try to have masks on deck always for people to pass out. But for things like the dance classes, it is a pretty small group. And personally, for me, I am indifferent on whether or not that they have to wear a mask. So it's really just what everyone else thinks, and I will happily, enforce. But I guess that's my 2 cents on it. I'm open for discussion though. We can also come back to this. I only have like 2 more slides. I'll just summarize really quick. That's okay with everyone? Yeah?
I think that sounds good.
Okay, great. So just to summarize everything that we talked about. Oh, there we go. So event times have primarily been in the afternoons and the evenings. We have doubled our hours of use in the community room weekly. We've increased our usage weekly by 30% in the community center. Tuesdays and Thursdays are our busiest days. We've had 777 plus people in the space. Families and kids make up our demographic targets. So far, we've worked with over 15 local organizations. As far as user feedback, we've got high satisfaction rates. Users create regular reservations, and all of the user feedback motivates our plans, which is an important part of a community center, I think. And then as far as overall progress and plans, the improvements we've made generate more traffic into the community center, and the proposals collaborate with local organizations to just enhance our existing resources as a community. And yeah, that was my last slide. So I'm basically just going to open up for any questions on any of the slides. And then also, if anyone has a suggestion on something that they would like me to include in future reports that maybe I didn't touch on, I'm open to hear that as well, so I can make sure you get a really well-rounded progress report in the future.
Thank you for the presentation, Maya. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say before questions began just how incredible this is. The amount of progress that you have made in the time span of 2 months is more than our district has ever been able to accomplish the entire time that we have been the custodians of these community spaces. And I am just so blown away and excited because I live close to the community center. I walk by and I see the utilization of the space. I feel like I've spent a lot of time in there over the past month in between the point in time count and the lighting walk, and just popping in when I see something cool going on there. So I really I think I speak on behalf of all of the board when I say this is incredible. Thank you for all your work. Thank you for all of your incredible proposals and ideas. I think you've really put us on solid foundation to figure out what we can do, as far as our policy and budget guidance to help you move forward in a way that grows us even more. So I'm just so incredibly excited to see the direction that everything is going there.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from board members on the presentation? Director Deschler and then Director Freeman.
Well, I was going to say the same thing Spencer said. I mean, I just like, if I had 10% of your energy, oh my Lord, I cannot believe how much you have done in 2 months. I mean, I'm really quite speechless. That was an excellent presentation. I really liked how you gave us a lot of good information, how you queried people who are in there getting recommendations for what they'd like to see. I mean, it was just such a thorough and well done report. So bravo, bravo. I do have a question. I wanted to ask the question about the rug option. Are you thinking that you would just have a certain area that would have a rug? So you'd have like a rug and a couch together and then leave the rest of the floor the same as it is now? That was one of the options.
Yeah, so right now I'm kind of thinking definitely at least 2 pretty big rugs on the side of the area, and maybe one that we can have that will cover a center of the space that we can roll up as well, just so that we keep that versatility of the main space of the room to have like both like, you know, primary indoor, primary outdoor events. So I'm open to more suggestions on that, but I was thinking like 2 main rugs that will stay there and just act as like, you know, in those seating areas, and then maybe one bigger one that we can have in the center area if we need it, and then roll it up when we don't. Thank you, by the way.
Director Freeman.
I have 2 things to comment on, one of which was the tacos. So you had mentioned that people who are coming for the computer literacy class were having the issue of a combination of lack of childcare and it's conflicting with family dinner. And I was wondering, have you actually talked to any of the people who are having that issue about the taco idea? Because my naive thought was that they probably weren't bringing their kids to the thing, and that maybe that like, so I was just like, well, maybe is providing tacos really solving their problem? But
yeah, so basically this was communicated with me through our vendor. So he's been reaching out to the people that really previously had benefited from a similar course that they offered. And he was noticing that a lot of them were coming in. And so he reached out to them and was like, hey, what's going on? And they were like, these times are awful. Like, I'm making dinner. How am I going to come to a, you know, computer literacy class? And when I brought up this idea to him, being my, you know, intermediary with the families, he thought it would be great because at least it's taking one thing off their plate. They can have, you know, their families come and eat dinner. And then maybe, you know, one parent will leave with them, the other one will stay. I've also, you know, briefly mentioned the idea to Jonathan, but I'm considering offering some sort of childcare if I feel that it will be helpful. So they can come get their tacos, maybe drop their kids with me, or we find someone, you know, to work with there. And then they can go into their course. On that same topic, I'm also working on like, okay, maybe I need to accommodate to the community and change these times. So we even have like a pilot event this month, kind of testing out a different time and seeing if we get more traffic then earlier in the day. So Rogers Tacos is definitely something that was a proposal to help with the problem. I wouldn't say that it solves the problem completely and that the conversation is over after that. I would just say that it's something that we're going to try and see if it makes at least a little bit of an impact for now.
I like that you're already thinking along the lines of how we might try to provide childcare. And yeah, it was confusing to me that the and maybe there's like a reason why the obvious option of just moving the time was something that wasn't the.
Yeah, we didn't move the time right away just because we had already did a lot of, you know, marketing. We put flyers all around town, so we didn't want there to be too much confusion. But we are going to test it as like a workshop. And if it does do really well, then we can, you know, work on transitioning times for the later events.
That makes sense. And then one other concrete thing that I've got tacos. From my perspective, the tacos should either be free for everyone who shows up, or they should not be free. The first 30 people free to me is going to end up causing this weird like cliff between the people who show up and they're not, and they're free, and the people that suddenly they're not free, and then there's going to be an argument between people about why did that person get a free? Well, the first 30 people get the thing free, and then it feels weirdly unfair in some sense. Like, I'm okay giving people free tacos. It's not that I'm trying to I'm stingy on the taco. There's something weird to me about the first 30 people free, but.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. The whole reason we even did the 30 free tacos is because that's something that Rogers Tacos does already. So they give the people that host their taco truck 30 free tacos. And so we were like, well, we don't need the 30 free tacos, obviously. So, let's provide that to the community. But I am definitely open to maybe thinking of a different strategy or something else that we can do to kind of ease that tension between the people who get free tacos and the people that don't.
Thank you. And by the way, I agree with everybody else. This is an extremely well done presentation. And I mean, even just the quality of the slides, you seem to put a lot of effort into making it a graphically pleasing presentation as well. So thank you so much for your efforts.
Thank you so much.
Other questions or comments from board members? Director Flaherty.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say thank you for this presentation too. I know that I'm echoing a lot of previous comments, but this was so helpful, especially with the graphs and seeing everything laid out. It was so straightforward and easy for anyone to digest the information, and really valuable information too. And so it was so well done. I especially really love the idea of the cork wall. I think that would be great, especially hosting local art and having an exhibit to go to every month would just be a really great way to help promote the community center and also just have some beautiful artwork on the walls. I know that wall is so huge and there's really nothing on it. And so having that where people could put, community events but also art and kind of make that kind of an event in itself through the exhibits, I think is just a really great idea. So I would really love to see that. Hopefully that can happen. And then also, about salsa, I'm so excited for that too. And I'll definitely promote it more to people as I'm talking about it. My housemates were very excited when I let them know. And so really, really great presentation, and seeing just how passionate you are just makes me really excited about everything and the future of the community center and what it will mean in the daily lives of Isla Vistans, and hopefully it can have a really big role. And so I just really want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. I genuinely hope I'll see you at the salsa classes. They're a ton of fun.
Thank you for that, Director Flaherty. Director Bertrand.
Yes, well, definitely want to echo everyone's comments. Maya, you've done such a great job. I'm really lucky to live near the community center, and I frequently am walking by and I see folks enjoying the space, especially on the dance nights. It's great that there's the big windows because folks can see it and see the fun that's being had. Additionally, I've told the board that I was at one of the recent Jeffrey's jazz events, and I also walked by this last weekend when they had it, and it just looked like such a great experience, and I'm excited to see more of that. I recognize that we're in an interesting time right now, coming out of the pandemic. Also, many students are either in finals week at UCSB or midterms at City College, so it's a tough time to launch a lot of these programs, but even with that, we're having good initial success. A couple of thoughts. So one is very similar to our board priorities in the other areas of the district too. We recognize that staff is spread really thin and trying to do a lot. So I definitely want to be cognizant about that. I see that you have a lot of goals, and I think we'll probably have to do some prioritizing to make sure that you're supported in implementing these, and to balance the community needs and what the community wants to see sooner than later. In that regard, I know that we're starting up the Community Advisory Council for the Community Center again. So I think that'll be really helpful, and I'm glad to see the participation and folks stepping up to help in that regard. Additionally, as many of my colleagues know, I'm especially interested in music and art events at the community center. And when I look at what we're offering right now, it's cool to see the variety. I think we do really well on the social services side, like with the programs for our houseless neighbors and the computer literacy classes, and some of the youth and family programs that we've had in the past. But I'm excited to see how we expand to have more of these ongoing arts, music, and cultural events, which sounds like is a big priority of yours as well. So overall, I'm really excited and very grateful. Thanks for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bertrand. Any other comments from board members? Well, I want to strongly echo Director Bertrand's comments. I think that Director Dashley even mentioned that you have so much data in the report, and I think that you identified something really important when you said that the events that we are hosting sort of in-house, with our contracted folks, are getting more diversity of age in their attendees. And I think that that really speaks volumes, and I love the idea of utilizing that sort of approach with our arts and culture going forward. And you've got so many good plans on the arts side, and I too would love to see more live music in that space. And it sounds like there's already requests for ways that we can make it more possible for the live music that we have had to be even more successful. Huge fan of everything that Jeffrey's Jazz Coffee House has done there. So I'll leave you with that. And again, just want to say such a big thank you. We focused on all the programming. I also got to say the transformation of the interior of that space has been incredible to see it filled with plants, the couches cleaned, the different areas segmented off and organized with the storage area. It's really transformed from what it was. I think I told you when I was there the last time I saw you, it was almost unfortunately, in between leases with the county and with us, kind of just storing a bunch of stuff and being used as storage. And now it's amazing to see the livelihood and the liveliness that is inhabiting that space. So can't thank you enough for all the work that you're doing. This is really incredible to see.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. I definitely put in a lot of time there and just making sure that, it gets the attention and decor that it deserves. So I appreciate the recognition. Thank you.
All right. And I realized that I totally forgot to go into public comment because we were so excited to talk about this. So I'll open it up for members of the public. If you have a comment, you can hit the raise hand button, or you can put something in the chat and we'll call on you. All right, not seeing any public comment. I'll close public comment. I do see one that says, Mark says, seems great. That's great. I think I saw some thumbs up from members of the public as well, which is great. So with that, are any closing thoughts from board members?
I'm just going to say that Maya has been an absolutely excellent new member of the IVCSD team. So we're lucky to have her. We should keep her around as long as we can.
Well, I can't agree more. Thank you for that, Jonathan. And thanks again for the presentation, Maya.
Could I ask a question?
I see a hand. Go ahead, Mr. Deschler.
It's not as related to this, but it's sort of tangentially related. So my question is, as we go into the budget process, we're going to be hearing from different programs from IVC that are within IVCSD jurisdiction. And so then we're going to go into the budget process. And so will we have a document that summarizes what each program has asked for so that we will then be considering that as part of the budget process?
Yeah, and the finance committee will help a lot with that in getting them first and then discussing them in detail and saying what can work and then sending them to the board. So we just had our first meeting yesterday, but it was introductory. But we'll start talking about specific programs in the next couple meetings we have. So things like the $15,000 boom gate, that's definitely like a budget item where we can either, we can figure out, is this something we want to put into our budget as something we want to buy next in July. Other things like the art wall, we can probably afford in this budget. It's just at a point where like it's past the board, it's at the board approval level, like $2,000. That's, the board needs to approve those costs. But yeah, some other things like the boom gate for sure, and floor or carpeting or furniture would all become part of the budget discussions.
Thank you for that question, Director Deschler. That's very helpful. Okay, so I think we'll close this item and we'll move on to our next item, which is 4.3, board designee to the IVRPD board meetings. Carrie and I think, can introduce this item. We had a great meeting with IVRPD staff and IVRPD board leadership, along with Jonathan, to just talk a little bit about our district's relationships and how we can continue to collaborate together in a way that is productive and that keeps each other updated with everything that's going on, so that we can build a better community. And one of the things that came out of that meeting was an idea based on something that other special districts in Santa Barbara County do, which is providing a designee from each other's boards to go and attend the meetings, not really with the intention of being a representative or participating, but just to report back and to make sure that flow of information continues, so that staff and the board are kept in the loop on what's going on at board meetings, which maybe over the years has happened informally. But I think we thought it would be a good idea for us to formalize it in the way that other districts, like the Goleta Water District is the example that I think we gave, have done so in the past. So Carrie, is there anything that you would add to that as well about our conversations?
No, I think you covered it.
All right, excellent. So I think we wanted to bring it for discussion and also see if there's interest from board members on being appointed to that sort of a position.
And my memory is that their board meeting is on Thursdays once a month at the end of the month, I thought, but I saw it on the calendar for mid-month, so maybe I'm confused about that.
Second Thursday of the month, sometimes also the fourth Thursday.
Second Thursday of the month, you're saying?
Second Thursday, sometimes additionally a fourth Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Director Freeman. So I'll open it up for discussion from board members. Director Bertrand.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. This will help improve our communication, coordination, and partnership. I can't volunteer to do it at this time. I would love to, but have a little bit on my plate. But I definitely support this and look forward to supporting whoever on our board would like to do it.
Thank you, Director Bertrand. Director Freeman.
I definitely agree that this is a good thing to do. One thing that I think is an interesting consideration to me is that when other, like the Goleta Sanitary District, I think is a classic one that has a person who attends the IVRPD meetings. They pay that person to do it. I don't know if we would want to do that here.
Yeah, and
I don't know if under our current policy they would already be.
It's a part of the days of service we need to implement, but we have a budget to pay them. But we need to implement that process. But we do have the budget to pay for that day's service.
Well, I was going to volunteer before you started talking about pay. I want it to be known.
It sounds like a volunteer to me.
Well, I do really think it's a great idea. And I feel like the discussions that we've had with IVRPD just over the last couple of months have been very positive and fruitful. And I really think that to do our best in Isla Vista for the citizens, we really need to be in a tight partnership. So I would enjoy that role.
So moved.
That Director Topliff.
And now I found out there's money involved too, man.
Well, we'll see about that. So I think that was a motion from Director Deschler
I'll second.
and a second from Director Friedman. Before we get too far down the road too, I want to ask any other comments from board members? Director Flaherty?
Yeah, I would be happy to support you. I know that you've been working really hard to really make this partnership strong, and I think it's really important. I completely agree, and so I would be happy to support you in this.
Thank you, Director Flaherty. So I'll open it up for public comment as well. Any members of the public who would like to speak can hit the raise hand button, or you can write something in the chat. I think I see a thumbs up. Is that a raised hand or a thumbs up?
Thumbs up from Mark.
All right. We'll take that as a thumbs up, not seeing anything else, so I'll close public comment. I too think that Carrie is the perfect person for this role. I know you've worked really closely with IVRPD going back to your days as a student here in Isla Vista. So you are definitely, I think, really well suited to be in this role, and will be. I really think that this will be helpful for all of us just staying in the loop on things, and really excited for this. So with that, we have a motion on the table. It's been made by Deschler, seconded by Freeman. Seeing no other discussion, I think we'll go to a roll call vote.
Dr. Brandt,
Yes.
Flaherty,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Topliff,
Yes.
Bertrand,
Yes.
Deschler,
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. So with that, we're going to close that item. We're going to move to reports, and we'll start with reports from members of the board. Do any board members have reports they want to share? Director Flaherty.
I just have a brief report. I'm not sure if everyone was able to see a statement that Spencer and I put out on the 2nd regarding the recent incidents in community safety. We wanted to put out a report that would mention what has happened in our community recently. There's been a lot, but most recently there was the sexual assault and attempted kidnappings that occurred that have caused a lot of course, really like fearful and like anxious feelings among community members. And so we worked to put out a statement. We were also in communication with law enforcement and a ton of other community stakeholders to compile resources that people could use, and then really worked through all of our different community channels to really make sure this information was disseminated and that people knew that there were resources out there and encouraged to report anything. Yeah, that was put out on the 2nd, and we thought that that was incredibly important. And yeah, just to let you all know. Oh, sorry, and also adding on to that, the suspect has been found as well pretty recently within the past few days. So that's also good as well.
Thank you for your report on that, Director Flaherty. Very timely, and I just want to say thank you for all of your leadership over this week, helping disseminate this information and communicate with the community. This has been a real tough time, and I've been very honored to work with you to help disseminate this information out. Director Bertrand, I see your hand.
Yes. Well, first off, thanks to Director Flaherty and President Brandt for getting out that statement. That was really meaningful and provided much needed information to the community. In general, I think a lot of folks are feeling a bit of fatigue from just how many negative incidents there have been lately, safety-wise. But we've also seen the community really come together. I think communication across the board was top-notch, not only from our district, but also law enforcement. They were really keeping the community apprised of what was going on. I was really impressed to see the resource fair that took place with a lot of services for survivors and victims, and focusing on meeting the needs of people who have been harmed and people who need support. Additionally, myself and Director Brandt visited the CSO safety station on Friday or Saturday night, and we got to catch up with the CSOs who were out working, and they mentioned that they were quite busy, and a lot of folks were seeking their services. As always, we saw people coming up for water and other assistance, and just really grateful for those workers. And this is a reminder that we have our work cut out for us, but also it's good to see the systems that we do have set up working to support the community when these things do happen.
Thank you for that report, Director Bertrand. Other reports from board members? Director Topliff.
I just thought I would report on the Finance Committee meeting. We met for the first time this year, Ethan and Jonathan and Spencer and myself. And as the new member of the committee, I was surprisingly made the chair within the first 5 minutes. So that's my new job. And we had a very nice presentation from Jonathan about what our budget looks like to date. And we look like we're in very good shape as we finish out this year, and had a lot of preliminary discussions, and then committed to a schedule which will have us bringing almost final budget to the board on June 14th. So you'll be hearing more from us, and we'll be meeting monthly between now and then so that we have a good budget to present to you.
Thank you for that, Director Topliff. Other reports from members of the board? Well, I'll share. I just want to say a big thank you to law enforcement for all of their work over the last week, working with survivors to eventually identify a suspect and make an arrest in this case. I think out of the entire time that I've lived here, there hasn't been an incident that has sparked more widespread fear into community members' minds than what happened on last Monday. And I can say that Catherine and I think, received really good communication all around from law enforcement throughout it, and had the chance to speak with the new lieutenant at the Foot Patrol just about every day last week, and provide feedback to how to get the information out into the community in a way that is sensitive to people's concerns. I was just really appreciative of that. I also want to say I'm very appreciative of Maya for working with Brianna Conway from UCSB CARE and other law enforcement agencies that participated in that training that was kind of scheduled last minute, and we were able to fit them in last Monday, or last Tuesday. So just want to say thank you for being nimble and working with them. Ethan mentioned that he and I went and got to chat with the CSOs on this past Saturday night, and I also had the chat to talk more with them yesterday at the UCSB on-campus lighting walk that was organized by the UCPD Community Engagement Department. And we got to have some really good conversations just about what it means to be safe and what it means to feel safe in your community. And we also got to walk around campus and identify lights that were out, look at the different safety measures such as the blue lights, and it was myself, and also got to meet Chief Yao in person for the first time, which is awesome because we've met so many times over Zoom, but now that we can do more things in person, it was good to get to know him and further that relationship. So overall, just a big thank you to the UCPD department for putting that on. There were probably about 30 people there, a dozen or so students that showed up, and This is like, as Ethan has mentioned before, dead week for UCSB students and midterms for SBCC students. So really busy time for the community, but it was still a priority for folks. And just really happy with how all of that went. That's the end of my report. I see a hand from Director Flaherty.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention this in my report, but I believe the lighting walk that was held at the community center was the day after the board meeting. So it seems kind of a long time ago, but I just really like to say thank you to Sydney for putting that on. I thought it was a really great event, being able to walk through Isla Vista and getting in groups and really looking for areas where lighting could be improved. It's so important for public safety. And so I just would really like to congratulate Sydney on such an amazing event. And I think it was so important.
Thank you for that, Director Flaherty. Director Topliff.
And I just wanted to mention some of our attendance at the Isla Vista Recreation and Park District's fair in Children's Park to celebrate their grant funds. And I was just blown away by what elaborate, family-friendly community festival that they put on and how well attended it was. It just was beautifully produced, and they were certainly very welcoming to us, and we got a lot of backstage touring of what their plans are and so forth, and it was really a lovely event.
Thank you for sharing that, Director Topliff. Yes, kudos to both those events, and man, I can't even believe that it's been that the lighting walk was in the last 2 weeks. I totally forgot to mention just also big kudos to Sydney for putting that together. I think it was a really excellent event, and big thank you to all of our partners that attended that. It was great to see everyone out there making a difference on what was like a cold night, but we all did a great job, and so big thanks. Any other reports from board members? Okay, seeing none, I think, Council, did you have something you wanted to bring up real quickly?
I did, and my apologies for throwing off the rhythm of such a good meeting, but the vote was taken so fast and I just didn't jump in time. With Director Topliff having the prospect, either currently or going to be in the future, getting paid for her job as being the designee to IVRPD. I know that she donates that money, or I don't think that she cashes it or something, but even though she's receiving the money, I think it would be more appropriate for her to abstain from the vote, because you're technically not supposed to vote in order for you, when you gain some type of pecuniary benefit. And it's not a policy question, it's a matter of what's called a 1090 violation under California law. So it's a very simple fix though. And actually it's going to take me more time to finish my spiel than it will for you to go back and correct it. All you need to do is simply go back, reopen the vote, and change your vote to abstain. And that will fix it. And it'll be reflected as corrected to a 6 in favor, 0 against, 1 abstention, and 0 absences. So that would be my suggestion, Mr. President. Thank you for that.
And Council, respectfully, I'm going to ask that you take a further look at that, because that's not my understanding of what is defined as a financial interest under 1090. And I say that just because I know this has come up in the past, and we've kind of had to deal with some bruising trying to parse out with the law. But my understanding is that this would not be considered under that. And I just I'm bringing it up just because I want to make sure that we get our precedents right on things like that. Also,
sure.
Consistency with what we've done in the past.
Sure. I think in light of that, then we'll leave the report as voted, and we can always go back and correct it later if the research bears out that either it's fine as it is, or if we need to make a change.
Thank you, Council.
I'm
going to move to.
I guess I'm sorry. As we have done it the other way many times before, it feels to me like we're not setting a new precedent if we correct it, and it feels like, this is something that I'm certainly not a lawyer who should be providing any opinion, but I also don't think that Ross necessarily is providing opinion to Carrie. And so I feel like maybe Carrie should question whether or not she could get hit for this, and whether or not it really matters if we go back, reopen the vote, and make it be abstain or not. Like, it just feels like an easy thing to me.
My recommendation is that we have council look at it further, and if we need to bring it back at the next meeting and make the correction, we should. But again,
I just don't know if we can reopen a vote from a previous meeting, whereas I do feel like if doing it right now seems like something that we actually could do.
I believe we can reopen the vote from our previous meeting. Director Bertrand?
Yeah, based on what I'm hearing, I think it's safe to abstain, but I do appreciate the further investigation from council, just so that we can have just a clear answer going forward. But I mean, I don't think there's any harm in abstaining, since the rest of the board is enthusiastically supporting Director Toplift.
Yeah, I would have thought that the safe thing to do would be to reopen and abstain.
Sorry, Director Freeman. I want to make clear. This is my fault. I'm derailing this. I was late in bringing this up at the correct time. So my apologies to President Brandt and the other directors for kind of throwing a monkey wrench in at the last minute here. I certainly can provide the analysis. I think the establishing and following a precedent is extremely important. I appreciate President Brandt's concern. I think it's appropriate to provide that. And if the board wants to do it now, the mechanism's there. If the board wants to wait, the mechanism is there to implement at that time. I don't want to derail the meeting in any way. This can be fixed quite easily either way.
Yeah, so with that said, I personally would recommend let's do further analysis and then come back on it. And if we need to do it, it's a cure and correct. It's an easy thing to do. Again, just want to make sure we're in keeping with the precedent, because I know that this issue has come before us in the past and we've had a different way of handling it. So
I guess I will ask Ross to verify. It's a cure and correct for our board. I don't know if you even want to comment on it, but would it be a cure and correct for Carrie?
I'll find that out and I will advise you accordingly as part of my analysis.
Carrie, I cannot offer you advice. I am not a lawyer.
I think I would prefer to change my vote to an abstain.
All right, then let's go ahead and move back to that item, and let's go ahead and do that. And maybe if in the motion, I don't know, you want to clarify you're doing it on your own volition.
Yes, I was overly enthusiastic when the vote was taken and jumped in with a yes when I probably should have thought a moment and abstained.
Okay, I'll make a motion that Carrie Toplift serve on that represent the IVCSD and attend the IVRPD meetings.
I will second.
Motion made and seconded by Deshler and Freeman. We've already had public comment on this same motion in the past, so I think we'll go right to a roll call vote.
Director Brandt?
Yes.
Director Flaherty?
Yes.
Director Freeman?
Yes.
Director Bertrand?
Yes.
Director Deshler?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Top?
Abstain.
All right, motion passes 6-0 with one abstention. And I think it sounds like is it the board's direction to ask council to bring back just a report on what he finds? Because I think we've had this question one too many times and it's derailed a couple discussions. So we'll look forward to that at a future meeting.
I would love never having to bring this up again. And I actually feel bad because I had started to ask that question earlier, partly in order to, and then I forgot. We actually got to the vote myself to bring it, as I oftentimes try to bring up. So
My apologies again. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move now to the next reports items, which is reports from committees. We had one committee report as an agenda item. Are there any other reports from standing or ad hoc committees? Director Flaherty?
Yes, Carrie, Spencer, and I have been working hard on the Spring Festival committee, and we've been able to attend a lot of meetings with different university stakeholders and community stakeholders, and we're moving forward with selecting artists for the festival and food vendors. All of those details are being nailed down this month, because next month is April, which is when we will be hosting our event, which is coming up very quickly. So we've seen a lot of really enthusiastic support from stakeholders, which has been really encouraging in this process. I don't know if anyone from the committee has anything else to add.
I think you summarized really well. We're excited with where things are heading. I think that they have a great vision, and I think Jonathan will have more updates to share about operationally how everything is going under his report. Any other committee updates? So it was shared earlier that Finance Committee has met. We did meet yesterday and got a overview of the budget process, of the estimated actuals for this fiscal year, as well as looked at some preliminary estimated revenue for the next fiscal year, and looked at the budget priorities survey and ways that we can improve it and make it better. So big thanks to Jonathan, to all your work putting that together. We're going to be having our next meeting. I had it pulled up, but I think I closed the tab, but I know that it's coming up soon. Maybe you know off the top of your head, Jonathan, or someone else on the committee.
March 28th.
March 28th will be our next Finance Committee meeting. Okay, next we're going to move to report from District Council.
Thank you, President Brandt. Everybody's watching the COVID situation, as are we. Obviously, everyone's been keeping abreast what's going on at the state level for public health orders and at the county level and how that might impact it. Just another reminder on AB 361 and remote meetings. The first required element is that there's a continued state of emergency in effect. So far, the governor has indicated that's going to be remaining. We don't know when, but he does have a pretty good track record of giving public agencies some lead time. And we do have some sunset provisions for all of the executive orders that have been issued, with some sunsetting at the end of March and the other ones sunsetting at the end of June. But if the local agency makes a decision that the health risks still support having remote meetings, and that option remains on the table. That being said, we are seeing a lot more of our clients move back to either a hybrid version where members of the public are allowed to participate remotely and to observe remotely, or simply just going back to full meetings in person. So whenever y'all are ready, it's there. And if you're not quite ready yet, then there are still recommendations for social distancing and still recommendation for masking in certain circumstances. And sufficient findings can be made to support continuing with remote meetings, even given the change in the health order at the county and at the state level in regards to the mask mandates. Beyond that, just a couple of reminders. If you haven't already, make sure you fill out your Form 700s. The county handles all that electronically. Their system is very clean. It's very easy, unlike the many other ones that I have to file, which are paper and have to go to different places, et cetera, et cetera. Also, if you have not done your AB 1234 ethics training or your harassment avoidance training, those are due periodically as well. And the county will be coming out pretty soon, next couple months, with the election schedule for pulling papers to run for those of you who your offices are up for re-election in November. Typically, those are released at the beginning of August. Given the timelines under the elections code, or maybe in July, and they're due at the beginning of August. So if anybody is thinking of running again, just remember that those deadlines are out there, and more information will be coming from county elections once they get past all of the pre-election stuff for the primary in June. And that's it. Concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Next, we're going to move to General Manager's report.
Awesome. Well, I will report that, yeah, the lighting walk that Sydney planned was a massive success. And she's working a lot right now on the step survey that's out. So if you've seen that, please get the word out. But that's the focus until the end of April, is getting people to take the survey in every way possible. And we even went out and did a canvassing test last Friday to do some training on how to canvass and see if our message is working. So but we're going to be ramping it up in the spring, in April, mostly, since we know a lot of the community is busy right now. So that, yeah, community engagement for the STEP grants is Sydney's main focus right now. Compost Collective, we are working on partnerships with the Edible Campus program as they're expanding additional garden locations. So we're working with them to see, how can we add compost piles as they grow, and work with them on getting a garden at the community center, and drawing up those proposals more firmly to bring back to the board. So that's been good since our annual report. Our Ivy Beautiful program is back to having 4 employees as in the crew, and our program manager. And so I'm still just working with them to get that program back on a regular schedule, and just operating normally again. So that's been a project. UCPD requested that I meet with them soon to renegotiate the MOU for the interpersonal violence investigator. So I'll be meeting with them soon to hear what their thoughts are, and we'll see where that goes. Both that and the safety stations need to report back to the board in April, May. So hopefully it can match with that. We've been continuing to get a steady stream of mediation requests, about 1 per week. So that's pretty good news. It's much better than it's ever been. And so I think part of it is the, content that our interns in Sydney created to, be passive information that then people might take on and use to make a reservation or schedule a mediation. So it's been way better. You got an awesome report on the community center and room activity today. And yeah, Maya mentioned it, but her and I and Sydney have been working on designing the new signage for that's part of the grant that we applied, that we got with the CDBG grant. So we're looking at 3 signs. If you want to look at the drafts and everything and give feedback, we have a draft 1 turned in, but we'll be making revisions. But we have 3 signs: 1 to replace the parking lot entrance sign at 970, which looks like it's from 1975 maybe, and just expanding its scope to kind of do wayfinding for the downtown area of IV. We're looking at a digital community calendar for the community center, so people can see all the events and things that are coming up, kind of like the DigiNotes at the residence halls. People know that. And then a nice entrance sign to the community center parking lot as well. So just ways to help people know where they are in the area. So we've been working on designing that. It's been fun. We're also working with the county on getting more outreach to the growing encampments around the building. We have 4 encampments at the building right now. And so county's making sure their outreach teams can work to get those people housed. Yeah, another thing on the STEP grant, I haven't listed as 2 separate sections here on this report, but we're also working on the existing conditions on the data of transit and transportation in IV right now. We had a very productive meeting on scooter data today, where we're able to see the start and end points for all the rides in Isla Vista and real-time data. So that was really exciting to really look at real information, and we actually had some few productive light bulb moments in looking at that. So lots of cool, this STEP grant has been continuing to be a cool project we're moving forward with. You got a big report on the parking today. On terms of the festival, we submitted all of the required paperwork to IVRPD for the park rental. We'll hope to hear back from them tomorrow or Thursday on if that's going to be finalized. we did get a request from CBF Productions to put down a $44,000 and $25,000 deposit by the end of the month for their festival. So that didn't come up before, and it just came up today. So we might need to have a special board meeting to consider that, because I don't think I'm necessarily, that was not previously authorized. Just a reminder, our retreat is March 19th from 10 to 1, or put it in your schedule 10 to 2, but we'll only go till 1, but just in case. And it'll be at the community center at the patio, and so we'll have a good time there. Yeah, our finance committee, you heard about that. If you go back to the agenda, you could look at the estimated actuals. You'll see that we'll probably end the year with another $300,000 to $400,000 in unspent fund balance. So that would grow our reserves, to the undesignated reserves, to around $1 million. So that's going to be a budget discussion coming up. I'm also working to resolve a missing $15,000 in revenue from the transition of Edison to Community Choice Energy. So there's around $15,000 missing that they're looking into in their systems on how did it's from October, which is the month that users were transitioning to sign up for Community Choice. So it's been a journey, and we found some of the money potentially, but 5,000 of it potentially, but not all of it. So the 5,000 we found is in unpaid utility bills from October, which is the highest it's ever been. It's usually $750 a month in taxes from unpaid bills that we don't get. This time it's 5,000. So we're not sure why and what's going on. I just learned this today. So we're working on this. And then I'm working with our consultant on we're gonna be working on the employee salaries and ranges and evaluation process, like the board discussed last time. Like the compensation study. We're still working on our FMLA issues. And then one of the new projects that we've discussed is having them look at analysis on the community center finances and helping us move forward with that. So and we did get one Public Records Act request. I'm supposed to report these to the board. And it seems like it's from some government accountability nonprofit, and they just want our salary compensation information, which is already posted on the state controller's website. So I'll help get that to them, but a lot of it's already publicly posted. So that's my report.
Thank you for the report, Jonathan. Lots going on. Any questions from members of the board? All right, well, not seeing any. Our next regular meeting date will take place on March 22nd at 6 p.m. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Made by Freeman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Flaherty. Any last comments? All right, let's do roll call vote.
Director Brandt?
Yes.
Director Bertrand?
Yes.
Director Freeman?
Yes.
Director Topliff? Director Deschler?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
I think that's everybody. Director Flaherty?
Yes.
All right, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone, and good luck to our students who are in finals and midterms this week.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Take care.
Ross, could you stick around? I'll wait for the YouTube stream to